Savion Williams is a name that continues to resonate more and more loudly in NFL circles as the offseason progresses, and recently, the speculation surrounding him has taken a very interesting turn. There are increasing rumors that the Detroit Lions could be seriously targeting Williams, seeing him not just as a potential depth piece but as someone who could grow into a critical part of their defensive identity for years to come. Although nothing has been confirmed yet, the dots that are starting to connect paint a very intriguing picture. Williams is precisely the kind of player that fits the current ethos of the Lions, a young, hungry, physically gifted talent who has not yet reached his ceiling, but possesses all the raw tools and mental makeup that Detroit covets under the leadership of Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes. When you start to unpack everything, his skill set, his mentality, his background, the Lions' needs, and the way the organization has been building its roster, the idea of Williams landing in Detroit feels less like a far-fetched rumor and more like a legitimate possibility. Coming out of TCU, Savion Williams showed flashes of brilliance that caught the attention of NFL scouts who specialize in identifying high-upside prospects. He was never the flashiest player on the field, and he wasn't always the first name that came up in conversations about the top defensive linemen in college football, but to those who watched closely, it was clear that Williams possessed a rare combination of size, strength, and athleticism. Standing at an imposing 6 feet 4 inches and weighing in around 285 pounds, he has the kind of frame that NFL coaches dream about. Big enough to hold his ground against the run, but athletic enough to penetrate gaps and disrupt the backfield. What made him stand out, however, wasn't just his physical traits, but the way he played the game. Relentless, high motor, fundamentally sound, and with a clear understanding of leverage and hand usage that is uncommon for players at his stage of development. These are not just traits you stumble upon. They are the product of natural gifts combined with hard work, film study, and a genuine love for the game. The Lions, for their part, have been very strategic in how they approach roster building. They aren't just looking for star power, they are looking for the right fits, players who match the culture they are creating, one built on toughness, resilience, accountability, and a true team-first mentality. Savion Williams seems to embody all of those qualities. He's a grinder, someone who has had to work for everything he's achieved, someone who understands that success is earned, not given. It's easy to imagine Dan Campbell seeing Williams as a grit guy, someone who brings his lunch pail to work every day, does the dirty work in the trenches, and sets the tone for the defense by simply refusing to be outworked. In many ways, Williams would be a perfect extension of the identity that Campbell and Holmes have been meticulously crafting in Detroit. From a schematic standpoint, Williams also fits like a glove. The Lions' defensive scheme under Aaron Glenn is predicated on versatility, disruption, and controlled aggression. They want linemen who can play multiple spots, who can win one-on-one battles, who can execute stunts and twists with precision, and who have the football IQ to adjust on the fly based on what the offense shows. Williams has shown throughout his college career that he has the versatility to line up across the defensive front, the quickness to be effective as a 3-tech in passing situations, and the anchor strength to hold his ground against double teams when necessary. His ability to move laterally, diagnose plays quickly, and maintain gap integrity would make him a valuable piece in Detroit's evolving defensive puzzle. Add in the fact that he's only scratching the surface of his potential, and it's easy to see why the Lions would be intrigued by the idea of bringing him in now, before the rest of the league fully catches on to what he could become. Behind the scenes, there are whispers that exploratory conversations may already be underway, with Detroit quietly doing its homework on what it would take to bring Williams into the organization. These kinds of moves often start slowly, with background checks, interviews, and film evaluations before culminating in more formal discussions. The Lions are known for their thoroughness. They don't rush into decisions, but when they identify a player they believe in, they are not afraid to be aggressive. It's entirely possible that the Lions see in Savion Williams the same thing they saw in other under-the-radar acquisitions they've made recently, an opportunity to secure a young, ascending player who fits their mold perfectly and can develop into a long-term contributor at a critical position. Thinking about the long-term implications, adding someone like Williams would be another brick in the foundation the Lions are building towards sustained success. Defensive lines aren't built overnight, and they aren't sustained by star power alone. Depth is critical. Rotational flexibility is critical. The ability to keep players fresh deep into games and deep into the season is critical. Williams would not only add depth, he would bring fresh energy, high effort, and a growth mindset that would push the players around him to be better. Iron sharpens iron, and adding another competitive, hungry player into the defensive line room would raise the level of competition across the board. Veterans would have to stay sharp. Young players would have another standard to measure themselves against. the entire group would benefit. Another fascinating aspect to consider is the mentorship Williams could receive if he joins Detroit. The Lions have carefully assembled a locker room full of experienced veterans who are not just talented, but also willing to mentor young players. For a developing prospect like Williams, being around seasoned leaders who model professional habits, preparation, and resilience could accelerate his growth significantly. It's one thing to have talent, but learning how to translate that talent into consistent production at the NFL level often comes down to the quality of the environment and the presence of strong role models. In Detroit, Williams wouldn't just be learning techniques. He would be learning how to survive and thrive in one of the most competitive environments in sports. That kind of experience could set him up not just to make the roster, but to eventually blossom into a starting caliber player who helps anchor the Lions' defense for years to come. From a fan perspective, the potential addition of Savion Williams should be incredibly exciting. He represents everything Detroit fans have come to love about this new era of Lions football: hard work, toughness, humility, and a never-quit attitude. He's not about the flash or the headlines. He's about showing up, putting in the work, and letting the results speak for themselves. If the Lions do move forward with bringing him in, it will be another clear signal that they are committed to building a roster the right way, not just chasing names but finding the right players, the right fits, the right building blocks for lasting success. It's also worth considering how Williams could develop in Detroit's environment. Under the tutelage of Aaron Glenn and the culture that Dan Campbell has established, there's a real opportunity for Williams to take his game to another level. He would have the chance to learn from experienced veterans, to be put in positions where his strengths are maximized and his weaknesses are coached up, and to grow into a player who can impact games in a major way. In Detroit, he wouldn't be asked to be a superstar from day one. He would be allowed to grow, to develop at a sustainable pace, to find his footing, and then build momentum. It's the kind of situation that could bring out the very best in him. Of course, we'll have to wait and see if all this speculation turns into something real, but the smoke is definitely there. The interest appears genuine. The fit appears undeniable. And if the Lions do make a move to bring Savion Williams into the fold, it could be one of those quiet, under-the-radar moves that people look back on years later and say, that was a turning point. That was when the Lions continued their march from being a good team to becoming a great one. That was when they added another piece to the puzzle, another brick to the foundation, another weapon to their arsenal. For now, all we can do is watch, wait, and wonder. But if you're a Lions fan, you should be paying very close attention to the name Savion Williams. It might be a name you hear a lot more of in Detroit very, very soon.